Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Bast, President and Chief Executive Officer, the Heartland Institute.
Like the moon on your skin. I'm so glad you trusted me to slide on this dusty sea.
In light of Michelle Bachmann's comments, I think I should point out right at the start, I am not the president of Iran. I am not related to him. I was actually born in Hortonville, Wisconsin. I was raised in Kimberly, Wisconsin, and I am a proud cheesehead to this very day. So, I'm also not a rat in the bottle of Coca-Cola. I've heard Grover give that talk before, and it's just outstanding. And finally, Joe Walsh. Some of you may not know this. Joe Walsh used to work for the Heartland Institute. He was doing school choice work for us. Joe Walsh is an amazing guy. When I get home, I'm going to write that letter, and I hope that you all write that letter as well. I thought that was a fantastic talk by one of the real rising stars of the Republican Party here in Illinois. Well, it's been a huge honor to be here with all these fantastic leaders of the conservative movement. I hope that you all agree that this has been a terrific conference. We're just about at the end of it now. The Heartland Institute is very happy to be a co-sponsor of this event. We've participated in CPACs in Washington, D.C. for many years. We hope that this successful event tonight justifies us doing this again in the future. So let's hope that we can do CPAC Chicago's going forward. Earlier this week on June 6th, we celebrated the 68th anniversary of the landing in Normandy, which is one of the most courageous and significant military developments in the 20th century. Ronald Reagan, in 1984, gave a talk about this event, and he asked what motivated the soldiers to fight so bravely and against such terrifying odds. He said that it was faith, belief, loyalty, and love. He said it was faith in a God who would grant them mercy on this beachhead or on the next. He said it was belief that there was a profound moral difference between using force for liberation and using force for conquest. He said it was loyalty to one's country, believing that it was worth dying for. And he said it was love of liberty, a willingness to sacrifice everything to fight tyranny. I think that's a terrific description of basic American values right there. The Heartland Institute spends a lot of time on the last value, liberty. About 25 miles south of here is one of the greatest universities in the United States, in fact, in the world. It's the University of Chicago. One of its greatest professors was Milton Friedman. According to Friedman, the world runs, and I'm quoting, "The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under an order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. The only cases in which the masses have escaped from grinding poverty, the only cases in all of recorded history, are where they had capitalism and free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worse off, it's exactly in those kinds of societies that depart from that." So the record of history is absolutely clear, Friedman said. There is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the average person that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by the free enterprise system. So we're indebted to Milton Friedman. The Heartland Institute is really founded on a lot of his ideas. We're also indebted to another great thinker, Nobel laureate economist Friedrich Hayek. According to Friedrich Hayek, we must make the building of a free society once more an intellectual adventure, a deed of courage. Unless we can make the philosophic foundations of a free society once more a living intellectual issue, and its implementation a task that challenges the ingenuity and imagination of our liveliest minds, the prospects of freedom are indeed dark. But if we can regain that belief in the power of ideas, which was the mark of liberalism at its very best, then the battle is not lost. If we can sum up this entire conference, I think it's in those words: the battle is not lost. Peter Ferreira, in his comments earlier today, 2 different times, Grover Norquist, these guys are predicting Republican victories in November. They're saying that come January, we're going to be able to undo the bad legislation, the bad decisions that were made over the last 4 years, over the last 8 years, and I would say even going further back than that. In the next 4 years, we have an opportunity to do more to change and improve public policy in this country than we achieved in the last 20, maybe the last 30 years. The opportunities are just going to be huge, and it's up to the people in this room, the real leaders of the conservative movement, the people who are willing to put their time and money and effort and their reputations on the line to make sure that that happens. There is nothing inevitable about what is going to happen in November. There is nothing that says that the American people are going to make the right choices. The only way that's going to happen is if the people in this room keep fighting, keep working, and make sure that their friends and relatives turn out and vote the right way come November. Let me, if I may, since the Heartland Institute invested a little bit in this event, make a few comments about the Heartland Institute. I want to point out that we're not a front group, we're not AstroTurf, we're also not a cult. I keep trying, but I don't have the personality to turn the Heartland Institute into a cult. We're also not related to any of the other businesses that you might be familiar with that have the Heartland name. So we're not part of a trucking company or a real estate company or an investment company or a restaurant or a spa. Thank you very much. Although we may want to get in that business. We are also not right-wing, we're not extremists, we're not anarchists, we're not reactionaries. We don't deny anything. We think of ourselves as part of the great center-right coalition that Grover Norquist talks about. We are absolutely in step with what the average American believes, those American values that Ronald Reagan talked about, and that Milton Friedman and that Friedrich Hayek have written about. 28 years ago, I was asked by a small business owner here in Chicago, Dave Padden, to help start a new organization. It would be a nonprofit think tank that would do for state and local public policy issues what the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation and the American Enterprise Institute were doing for federal policy. That new think tank, the Heartland Institute, started with a half full-time person. That was me. I worked part-time for the first 6 months. Our first annual budget was $24,000. Today we have 37 full-time staff. We have an annual budget of $7 million. And among all the think tanks in the country, regardless of their ideology, we are the #1 rated think tank based on what think tank legislators say they rely on for research and commentary. So we've come a long ways. Earlier this week, we achieved a real threshold, I think, for success. The Economist ran an article. The opening sentence of The Economist read, the Heartland Institute is the world's most prominent think tank promoting skepticism about man-made climate change. Yeah. And that is not a label that we are afraid to use or an issue that we're afraid to keep addressing. So look forward to seeing more stuff from the Heartland Institute on climate change. 2 years ago, we put together a book. It's titled The Patriot's Toolbox, 100 Principles for Restoring Our Freedom and Prosperity. This book is unusual. It's different from any other book that you might be able to read because it condenses a whole series of 10 booklets that themselves condensed 28 years of research on public policy issues. Each chapter in this book presents 10 principles for how to reform an important part of public policy in the United States. Altogether, then, it's 100 principles. Highly digested, easy to read, no throat clearing, no self-promotion, no background, no history. It's just the facts. We brought over, so far we've distributed over 80,000 copies of this book to Tea Party activists all across the country. We brought over 1,000 copies with us to this conference. If you haven't already picked up a free copy of it from our booth, I hope you'll pick up a copy on your way out. Pick up one for yourself, maybe pick one up for a friend or a relative, because I think it's a great guide to the public policy issues that are at stake in the elections coming up in November. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this conference. Thank you very much for attending. I hope to see you again next year.